And we got Nafisia Collier making comments about the CBA. I don't know if she's finally coming to some realization. I don't know. So let's check this out. In the midst of all of it, former MLB executive David Sampson has claimed that the Players Association may have to accept that the WNBA owners have the advantage and an agreement will only come as a result.
Wait a second. What if I told you the biggest reality check in the WNBA right now didn't come from a player, a coach, or even the commissioner? It came from a cold-blooded former executive who's been in the war room when empires collapse. Yeah, I'm talking about David Sampson, the same guy who ran the Miami Marlins and has lived through brutal front office battles most fans will never understand. This isn't some hot take podcaster farming clicks. This is a man who has sat across the table in high-stakes CBA negotiations, stared down player representatives, and made decisions that could flip an entire franchise overnight. And now, he's sending a message to WNBA players that they absolutely do not want to hear right now. It's direct. It's uncomfortable. And it hits where it hurts. Don't take my word for it. Check this out. Fire.
Owners, you're having expansion fees, relocation fees, you're getting a one-time signing bonus from your broadcast partners. All of those one-time events are not calculated in terms of viability of a business. I have been saying this for 6 months. You cannot put in expansion fees and relocation fees into the coffers for the WNBA.
That right there. That wasn't just talk. That was a straight-up executive mindset laid bare. And here's where it gets even colder. When someone like Sampson speaks, he's not guessing how ownership thinks, he is ownership. He's lived that mentality, breathed it, made payroll decisions, cut checks, slashed budgets, and protected the bottom line at all costs. So when he delivers this message, it's not emotional, it's calculated. And the warning is brutally simple. The players are walking into a negotiation thinking leverage is on their side, but the numbers don't lie. He's basically saying they're asking for money that flat out doesn't exist in the league's bank account. That's not shade, that's a financial gut punch. And if that's true, this next clip is where things start getting really uncomfortable. Watch this.
Collier is saying someone is gonna have to fold. Are the players finally getting to the point where they're like, we're getting too close to the season now, things are tightening up? WNBA PA President Nafisia Collier is confident the season will happen, but it won't come without compromise. Quote, well, someone's gonna have to fold, aren't they?
Now here's where this gets really wild. Because this isn't just one former exec firing shots anymore. This thing just leveled up. When a guy like David Sampson says it, you can brush it off as old-school ownership energy. But when Mark Cuban, one of the most player-friendly owners in modern NBA history, steps up 2 days later and echoes the exact same warning. Oh, now it's not noise. Now it's a pattern. Cuban has built a reputation on backing players, empowering stars, being progressive with contracts. So if even he is reinforcing this hard financial reality, that tells you something serious is cooking behind closed doors. The message is crystal clear. Emotion doesn't balance spreadsheets. And what he said next. That's where this whole situation takes another sharp turn. Watch this.
How many years? It's been a long, we know leagues don't just add teams. All of those one-time events are not calculated in terms of viability of business. And the more players want to tell owners to count relocation fees and expansion fees as part of a going forward revenue, the more.
And did you catch that shift in tone? That wasn't random. Now you've got A'ja Wilson stepping to the MIC, and suddenly the energy feels different. Less chest thumping, more calculated. It sounds like someone who understands this isn't just social media beef anymore. This is real money, real contracts, real seasons on the line. When a franchise superstar starts talking with that kind of gravity, You know the temperature in those meeting rooms is boiling. And let's be honest, the deadline isn't creeping up, it's sprinting. Every hour that passes, the pressure multiplies. Behind closed doors, agents are scrambling, owners are crunching numbers, players are weighing risks. Because this type of standoff, it doesn't last forever. Eventually, somebody folds. They have to. This level of tension isn't sustainable in a professional league trying to capitalize on momentum. The real question is, who blinks first? And what was just said next might give us that answer. Take a look.
Monetary hits. And there's a lot of expenses that come around from the expansion fees and blah, blah, blah. They're trying to say that's part of the money the WNBA's making. It's one time. It's not reoccurring, but I bet you're wanting your salary to be reoccurring, don't you? You see, it doesn't work out like that. In other words, that is not money that the WNBA can count on making. By the way, they've already laid out their expansion plans. They're just supposed to keep adding teams every single year just to be able to...
Okay, so that clip just laid it out plain and simple. The battlefield isn't just pay us more. It's expansion fees and relocation fees, and that's the hill the WNBA Players Association is reportedly ready to go to war over. According to David Sampson, that specific demand? That's the deal breaker. He's basically saying if they keep making that their primary ultimatum, there will be no handshake, no compromise, no season. Period. Now here's why this is such a massive pressure point in the league's finances. The players are looking at those giant one-time checks and saying, that's revenue. Put it in the pot. Share it. Take Portland. They just dropped a staggering $50 million for an expansion franchise. That's not pocket change. That's a serious cash injection. On the surface, it looks like the league is swimming in money. But ownership is arguing that expansion fees aren't recurring basketball revenue, they're capital investments. And if you start slicing that pie into salary sharing, the entire financial model shifts overnight. And what comes next in this debate? That's where the math gets even more uncomfortable. Buckle up.
We don't think, obviously, what we're asking for is unfair. Otherwise, we wouldn't be asking for it. But we understand it's a negotiation, and I think we are trending in the right direction. But we have to be able to stand strong in what we believe in and make sure we are getting a fair cut in this pie that are building together as a league and as players. Guys, what I believe is going to happen here, going to have another 2 weeks of this bullshit. There's going to be literally, there's going to be a deadline set somewhere, a drop dead date. And right before that drop dead date goes, they're going to come to it.
And that's where the numbers start looking crazy on paper. You've got the Bay Area franchise cutting a $50 million check. Then another $50 million price tag attached. Stack that up and we're talking about roughly $150 million flooding into league accounts in a short window. From a player's perspective, that looks like a jackpot. That looks like proof the league has cash sitting there. So of course they're thinking, why isn't that included in the revenue split that determines our paychecks? But here's the cold. Corporate counterpunch owners keep throwing back. Those expansion fees. They hit once. One time. Boom. That's it. They're not TV deals. They're not ticket sales. They're not sponsorships rolling in every season. They're capital injections tied to ownership bias. And ownership is drawing a hard line saying you can't build long-term salary structures on one-time events. Because if you do, the math collapses the moment the expansion checks stop coming. And what that means for this standoff, that's where things start getting real uncomfortable for both sides.
I don't know. I see them coming together at around like 7, something like that. I'd have to look at the numbers, but somewhere around $6.5 to $7 million on a salary cap and a little bit more salary, and that's going to be it. It's going to be a wrap at that point, okay? And in fact, let me see.
And that's the key point owners keep hammering home. You can't run a long-term payroll off money that vanishes after one splash. Expansion fees are a one-time pop, not a steady drip. You can't promise multi-year contracts, guaranteed salaries, and future cap spikes based on cash that won't be there next season. That's not how sustainable leagues operate. That's gambling with the books. Just look at history. The National Football League hasn't added a team since the Houston Texans came into the league back in 2002. Think about that, over 2 decades ago. In pro sports terms, that's an eternity. Expansion isn't an annual bonus check. It's rare. It's strategic. And it definitely isn't something you can count on year after year to fund payroll increases. So when owners say, we can't budget around that, they're not being dramatic, they're being structural. And if the players continue tying their salary demands to expansion money, that's where this negotiation could hit a brick wall fast. What comes next in this breakdown really shows just how risky that strategy could be.
$0.65 million. So, I'm guessing somewhere like $6.5 million, which is going to be a little bit more money in their pockets per year, the players, and that's going to be it. There's not going to be this huge gross revenue share. That's not going to happen because the league can't afford it. And I will say this, even though there's flaws in Mark Cuban's plans, his salary structure he laid out, I will say this, him coming out and just saying the league does not have the money, I think it's good for people that's that high profile to come out and say publicly the WNBA does not have the money to pay these players what they are asking for. It cannot happen. These players need to hear it. Because obviously, I don't know. A lot of shit's not sinking in with this bunch. Not the sharpest tools in the shit. I'm just pointing that out. And they're going to do something. The players are going to do something radical so it looks good on social media. And then they're going to sign the deal. Tell me what you think.
Now this is where the business lesson gets savage. The National Basketball Association hasn't expanded since the Charlotte Hornets came back in 2004. That's over 2 decades with 0 new expansion checks rolling in. Major League Baseball. Last time they added teams was 1998 with the Arizona Diamondbacks and Tampa Bay Rays. Leagues don't just keep adding squads forever like it's DLC content. Eventually, you run out of markets, and the money dries up. That's why banking payroll on expansion fees is a dangerous game. And here's the part nobody screams about on social media. Expansion isn't pure profit. That $50 million check. It gets eaten up fast. Marketing blitz. Arena deals. Staffing. Travel logistics. League-wide schedule adjustments. Infrastructure build-out. A huge chunk of that money is already allocated before fans even see a tip-off. So when Sampson says if expansion fees stay on the table as revenue, there will be no deal, he's not threatening a bad deal. He's saying there might be 0 deal. Owners don't bluff when it comes to structural math. Now look at the numbers on the table. Players want that cap at $9.5 million per team. The league countered at $5.65 million. That gap. That's Grand Canyon wide. And trying to bridge it with one-time money that won't exist in 2 years. That's the core tension. Meanwhile, ownership is staring at recurring revenue. Media rights, sponsorships, tickets, merch, and saying the math doesn't stretch that far. Then you've got Mark Cuban stepping in with no direct WNBA stake, saying publicly the cash just isn't there. That hits different. This is a guy who ran payrolls for the Dallas Mavericks for 23 years. When he says liquidity is limited, that's not anti-player, that's spreadsheet reality. And here's the chess move everyone noticed. Players aligning with Unrivaled, the Miami-based 3-on-3 off-season league, flashing 6-figure checks as leverage. The message is clear, pay us or we've got options. But here's the catch, that leverage only works because of WNBA visibility. If the WNBA season disappears, that marketing power fades fast. The platform fuels the value. So what happens next? Classic CBA playbook. Big opening demands, 50% revenue share like the NBA, massive cap spike, structural overhaul. Owners say absolutely not. Tension spikes. Strike threats float. Social media gets loud. Then, at the buzzer, both sides compromise. My prediction. Cap lands somewhere between $6.50 and $7 million. Travel upgrades. Better benefits. Promise to revisit revenue sharing next round. Season saved. Because let's be real, this is the worst possible moment to torch momentum. Ratings are climbing. Attention is peaking. Stars are mainstream. Neither side can afford to lose a year right now. The players need the stage. The league needs the growth curve. Cooler heads almost always win in the final 48 hours. But here's the long-term question. Will players feel respected, or will they feel steamrolled? Because how this ends sets the tone for the next decade of labor relations. So now I'm flipping it to you. Do the players hold firm and risk the season, or do they take the middle ground and secure steady growth? Drop your prediction below. And if you want unfiltered, high IQ breakdowns of the business behind the W, hit subscribe to WNBA Vibe. Because we're not just watching the headlines, we're reading the ledger. Fire.